Now on today's video, we're going to lay out the trim for our COWL project, carbon fiber seat cowl, for the MT-09. We're at the point where we have to finalize the trim we want on there. Now I'm going to show how I use a material called Oracle. It's like a shelf paper, similar to a shelf paper, and how I make the patterns and how I try to proportion everything so that it looks like the factory might have made it. Now, a lot of this technology comes from model airplanes, and there are a lot of ways to do this. Everybody has a tricky way to do it, but the Oracle material allows you to see what the paint would look like after you've painted it in the color you want to use. In this case, we want silver, and you can adjust that final pattern a lot easier than repainting the gas tank or the seat or whatever. And I have done this for many years, and you can share it with me in 4K. Well, today we have a few more loose ends to take care of on this, and we'll be ready to put the part in. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is going to be when I have it all buffed out. But the first thing, I wanted to put the whole bike together again and see if I want to add some trim to this, or if I just want to leave it blue. I won't know that until I put this part back on the motorcycle. Now, the little handle that I have, I'm just going to cut that away with a razor blade, just so I can do that little mock-up with this piece on the seat, and then decide if I want to have a little stripe of trim to match the tank, or if I like it without the trim. So step one, I looked at the previous part that I made, the cowl for the 650, and I do like the way the trim came out. It kind of ties it into the motorcycle, and I like that. Here's a trick. Don't try to break the block off of the carbon fiber. What happens, you can do some damage to the part. I cut it off with a razor blade. It's going to get glued back on later when we put the rest of the clear on. The little hinges, the little brackets that we made out of the finger guard material, they have worked perfectly now on 2 motorcycles. It's a great little tip. It's on one of the previous videos. So I wanted to get the seat in place. So decision one, do I want to put trim on? This is a relatively simple paint job on this motorcycle, and as I looked at it, and I looked at the 650, and I looked at the R1, other ones that I have done, I said, yep, I want to get it, and I want it to match the tank. I want it to look as if the guy that designed the lettering and the striping on the tank, that he already had this part, and I think if we get it right, and I think we will, it's just like designing a model airplane. It just takes time. Now, even if you're painting a model plane, the idea of using Oracle is you can see the trim in the color that you intend to paint it. If you're making the paper patterns out of white paper, or if you're doing checkerboards and they're all white, it isn't really a checkerboard. So just being able to look at a paint job that you can envision what it looked like with Oracle, or with colored shelf paper would be another material, but the Oracle has a really nice glue to use. It doesn't pull paint. Now, anytime I get to this point in the job, I really don't know what this trim is going to look like. I didn't do this ahead of time. I didn't make any sketches or anything. I had it in my mind, and I thought, well, maybe that'll look good. But the easiest way now, if you don't have Oracle, you can make it out of a piece of ordinary office paper, cut a couple of little holes, so it'll stay in place with a little tab of blue tape. And the nice thing about this, now you can see, well, this is what we're trying. These angles, we want to pick up the angles, and I want to pick up the proportion, the amount of blue relative to silver. The proportion has to be right. If I make the stripe too thick, it's going to look wrong. Too thin, it's going to look wrong. What this allows me to do too, even just using a paper, I can see what it would look like backwards. I've done that with model airplanes many times. I've had a picture in my mind, and when I was done, I put it backwards. And a lot of people do that. The people in model aviation are very creative. The people in motorcycle custom work, very creative too. And a lot of the technology you can transfer from one hobby to another. Now, I looked at this a lot of ways. I wasn't sure. And no matter how I looked at it, I went through about 10 of these before I eliminated them, and I said, you know, we better move on. And in my mind, it looked a lot different, but that's what's good about using this system. This I call, and it's on all of my earlier videos, paper dolls. Yeah, now you can just go get the scissor and right while it's in place, look at it and say, I'll pick up that angle, I'll pick up this angle, I can copy the curve of the seat if I want to. I got a free hand here, but because I'm not painting the whole motorcycle at once, I'm just trying to make something match, and I'm trying to make it look like I didn't design it, but like the person that designed the MT-09 paintwork designed it. Now, I like to just, I call it sneaking up on a part. Make the pattern bigger than it has to be, and constantly trim it until it looks like what it should look like. I almost never get it right on the first shot. I don't even try. I just like to throw ideas out there and then say, well, what if I made it a little more of an angle? What if I made the whole part thinner? Now, what I'm trying to get right, and it's something that's very subtle, the proportion of silver to the proportion of blue. And a lot of people don't even notice why something works or why it's appealing, because when somebody does this, the people I'm sure at Yamaha spent a lot of time doing this. And when they get it right, it's not because they just took a roll of tape and ran out and taped it off. They made patterns. They did sketches. They probably did it on a computer. I don't do anything like that on a computer. I do this all by eye and by constantly going back and forth. Move the part to the left, move it to the right, back, forward. Now, already I've already eliminated the first few that I did. This one was starting to look right, but I know I don't have the angles right. And when I tried to make the front of it follow the contour of the seat, something didn't look right. I couldn't figure out what didn't look right. I tried to use that contour and tried to use the angle in the back, and every time I looked at it, I said, close but no cigar. I was really getting a little frustrated here, to be honest. And this wound up taking a long time. Now, here's the Oracle paper. You can buy at any craft store. Order it, about $1 a sheet. And this is pretty much the color that I'm going to paint the trim. Now, the really nice thing is Oracle comes in every color you can imagine, metallics. There's even some like iridescent ones. But if you're going to use silver, it's nice. I want to see what the silver trim is going to look like. And this is a real close match. Not exact, but real close. So what this is going to allow me to do, I have my paper pattern that it's not finalized now, but I'm getting closer and closer every time I make a pattern. So I just take there's a cutting pad for somebody who doesn't know. It's a special rubber that allows you to cut with a razor without destroying the razor, and available in any hobby shop. Now, another thing, I use scissors because I just want to be able to trim this infinitely. I always start with the pattern a little bit bigger, and then shave it and cut it and change the angle. And you don't see it on the video because I eliminate 9/10 of it. See, I get what I thought the angles were close, but when I went out to the garage, it looked better, but not exact. And that's the thing, is you got to make yourself crazy going back and forth. Now, another thing, I want to be able to see both sides. So I've got to make a mirror image. And you can't, for anybody that's a model that knows, you can't make two left fuselage sides. Everybody I know has done that, including me. And so you got to flip the pattern over so that in essence you have two pieces, one left and one right, and they're not exactly the same. One is a mirror image of it. So that's going to allow me to see what this really looks like, in almost as if I masked it off and painted it. And if I was to go out and not do this and just do this by eye, yeah, I may get it. There's some chance I'd get it, or I'd be happy. But once I pull the tape off and I look at the silver, if I said, oh, I got that angle wrong. Oh, I should have changed that. Could have made it a little bigger. Could have made it a little smaller. Once I fall into that trap, I've got to sand all that paint off and start all over again. This allows me to pull up the Oracle. And by the way, the glue on Oracle is such that it doesn't pull paint up. It's a very low tack, and it doesn't leave a residue. Even though we're going to wet sand this part before we paint it, it doesn't leave that tacky residue like some tapes do, especially if you're using tape in a cold environment. It can leave a residue on the thing that when you go to paint or sand, you just grind that into the part. So we got two mirror image parts here, and looking at them, now I can go fine tune them. I make sure I have a matched set, one left side and one right side. So now I have the two Oracle material patterns that are silver. They're oversized and the angles are not as sharp as they are going to be in the final part, but I'm going to be able to fine tune them little by little by little. And because the part is oversized, first thing is to lay it down, lay the whole part out, see it in silver, and then decide where I want to change it. And I can put this down, take it up as many times as I have to. And this really is a real advantage at this point in time, because I may want to make an adjustment to this. I may want to put it backwards. I still don't like the angle. I don't like the angle that it follows the front of the seat. I didn't like that. Now, the angle at the back, I looked at it, and I said, you know, I don't know what's wrong with it in my eyes, but I don't like it. It looked okay, and the first time I looked at it, but as I looked at it longer and longer, I liked it less and less. And now here's the big thing. Once I laid it out like this, that I had both pieces freeze frame here, now I could sit back and look at it and decide what about it I exactly don't like. And I don't like the angle at the back. I decided that was the part that had to go. And as I'm looking at this from every possible angle, I realize there's another thing wrong. There's a little bit too much gray. Probably if I take an eighth of an inch off of that part, just to make a little bit less gray, I need to adjust the angles. And I think what I'll do, and it dawned on me, I have to stop using the front part of the seat for my reference so it mimics that angle. Once I did that, then I liked the part a lot better. And it kind of sneaks up on you. What do you like about it? What don't you like? Here's one side done, one side not done. Which side looks better? I like the one that has the point in the back, more of an angle. Also, the little rib, that little sliver of, I should have done it with blue tape even to make it cuter, to get that little sliver, that little box that's at the front, a little diamond, just to do this back and forth, back and forth. It seems like it's a long time, and it is. And to get that pattern perfect, it just takes a long time. Now you can see it's really worth it now. I can see what this is going to look like when I paint it. Now, I spent a lot of hours to get that rib in the middle of that cowl and to get all the radiuses right, all the shapes and fits. Why would I compromise this? And it took me a whole work session to make those two patterns. And at the end of the day, when I looked at them, I thought, wow, that's a whole work session for two patterns. It's worth it. I laid them up on the tank, made sure I had the angles exactly what I wanted, and I get the proportion right. The proportion was the key thing here, and I think I got it. I hope I have it anyway. I guess we're going to find out when we go to paint it. So these two pieces, the final pieces, these are what make the whole day worthwhile. So in this work session, this little pattern is all I accomplished. It took a lot of time. This is a very time-consuming back and forth thing, but I did get all the angles exactly accurate. And the thing that's difficult to do is get the proportion right. Because if there's too much gray on the tail, it's not going to look right. If there's not enough, back and forth. And I went back and forth. I used up quite a few cuts of the paper. And Oracle, what's nice, you can put it on 100 times. And when I'm done with the pattern, that I really have the final pattern, what I do, I stick it to a piece of paper. This will be when the day comes and I already used up this work session. We're going to wet sand that part out, back mask this, spray the silver. Now, it allowed me to look at the part in silver, and I was real happy the way it looked. In the beginning, I wasn't happy, but that's why you just keep going and going and going until you have the shape that you want. And in this case, we're trying to make it look like the factory might have made this. And it's not as easy as it looks, and it takes a lot longer than you think it does. But in the end, when you get it, It really, really sets the bike apart. And this is one of the crowning jewels of this bike, because nobody else will have this part. So much of the things that I've been able to pass on to fellow modelers and now fellow motorcyclists, the technology is interchangeable. And looking at parts and making patterns, getting paint work done, and very complex paint jobs that require a lot of backmasking. Oracle is a real tool to have in your toolbox. No matter what you're doing, if you're custom painting a motorcycle, if you're building that killer model plane that you've been dreaming of your whole life, it doesn't matter. The same technology applies, and it's good technology. It's easy and it's fun, and when you get it right, at the end of a workday like today, and you get it right, there is a satisfaction. It's hard to even explain to people that don't do their own work. Anyway, I hope you really did enjoy the video. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like button if you did, and thank you so much for watching.